Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our panel presentation today on Priyats. My name is Leslie. I'm with the Federation for Children with Special Needs, and today we're so happy to partner with Easterseals of Massachusetts on this panel and getting you the information that you need to work with students who are interested in work. You'll find out what Priyats is today. So I'd like to welcome my former colleagues now with Easterseals, Nancy Maynard.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for coming today. So my name is Nancy Maynard, and I am the Director of Community Support Services for the Easterseals of Massachusetts. My entire family is home with me today, so intermittently you will hear children noises and door slamming, but we're going to try to keep that under wrap. So I'm new and old to the Easterseals, and as I returned, we have a Priyats program, and Kylie Warnock and I were discussing ways to reach families and decided to partner with the Federation to reach as many families as we could to talk about Priyats, because it's such a confusing topic for families, for advocates, so we're trying to answer basic questions and get basic information out there so everyone has a general understanding of what's going on with Priyats, so that you can hopefully connect as many students as possible to the services.
Nancy, you're muted.
I wasn't muted the whole time, though.
No,
I didn't mute.
Just the last sentence or so.
Okay. I just want the panelists to give a quick overview of their organization, introduce yourselves, and a quick overview of your organization, if that's possible. Kelly, you want to start?
Sure. I'm Kylie Warnock. I'm the manager of the Priyats program at Easterseals. We have a contract in Worcester as well as in Western Mass. Zach Patnode is our Western Mass coordinator. So for Worcester, we service Worcester Tech High School, Shrewsbury High School, West Boylston High School, an alternative high school, St. Casimir's, and sorry, I blanked, West Boylston. So I'll let Zach go next and he can talk about what schools he services in the West. Thank you so much for everyone who came today.
Okay, hello everyone. I'm Zach Patnode. I am the West coordinator for Easterseals Priyats program. We are servicing Hopkins Academy, Turner's Falls Regional High School, Mohawk Trail Regional High School, the Center School, and Springdale Education Center in Holyoke, as well as RFK Academy in Springfield, and New Directions Alternative School in Northampton, and Pope Francis High School in Springfield. And I want to thank everyone for coming today. Thank you to Leslie and Nancy for organizing this, and looking forward to meeting everyone in person as we go forward when possible. So,
Nate, you're next on my screen, so I'm going to tag you.
Great. Hello, everyone. Nate Maynard from Viability. Our Priyats covers a pretty wide range. Actually, I'm here with Deb Sanborn. I think you're on here too, Deb. You here? Deb will talk about the Worcester office. Yep,
yes,
okay.
I am here. Sorry, I couldn't find the mute.
No worries. I'm going to cover West, Deb, and then I'm going to hand it over to you. So out in our Western region, we cover the Greenfields region, which includes, let's see, we've got Amherst Regional High School, Four Rivers Charter Public, Frontier Regional High School, Greenfield High School, Pioneer Valley Regional High School. And then in Springfield, we've got Chicopee Academy, Chicopee Comp, Smith Vocational, Pioneer Valley Performing Arts, South Hadley High School, Hampshire Regional High School, Gateway Regional, Minnechaug High School, Putnam High School. We also cover the TPS program, which is the Transition Pathway Services, which is similar to Priyats. That includes a variety of other schools I won't include in this. And then we also cover the Pittsfield region, which has Monument Mountain Regional, Pittsfield High School, and Wacona High School. That was a mouthful. And I'm going to hand it over to Deb. Deb covers Worcester.
Hi there, I'm the director in the Worcester office, and for Priyats, we cover Auburn High School, David Prouty High School and Transition Program, Gerald Creamer, Robert Goddard Academy, the Thrive Program, Quabog Regional High School, South High School, Tantascwa, University Park in Worcester, and we're also working with kids from 3 different community colleges around the area too.
Hi, I'm Casey Mimitz. I'm the coordinator of youth services at Stavros Center for Independent Living. So as an agency, we cover Hamden, Hampshire, and Franklin County, but for Priyats specifically, we work with Amherst High, Belchertown High, Ware High, Granby High, Southwick Toland Regional, White Oak, and then Westfield High as well as Westfield Vocational.
Awesome. I think I'm next. I'm Kylie Warnock from New England Business Associates. I'm the division supervisor of the Priyats and the MRC division here. New England Business serves pretty much all of Western Massachusetts and Connecticut. And we are working with the Cutchin School for Children and Family in Northampton, Longmeadow High School, Holyoke High Schools, including Dean Tech and the Transition School. In Hatfield, Smith Academy. In Palmer, we work with Palmer High School as well as Pathfinder Regional. We also work with Munson and Renaissance School in Springfield and Valley West in Chicopee.
Hi, everyone. My name is Magdalene Johnson. I am an MRC counselor out of the Worcester office. I am one of the counselors out of the many in the office that covers some schools. But the schools that I cover myself are Burncoat High School, Wachusett, Robert Goddard Academy, St. Casimir, and some of the Central Mass Collaborative, some Rockdale Recovery High School students.
All right, thank you. Do we get everyone? All right. So here's the questions we're going to tackle today. These are the most asked questions about Priyats. So we're going to do our best to provide as much basic information regarding each question so that everybody leaves here with a general understanding of Priyats services. So I think the first question is like, what are Priyats? What are they? Why are they? And if someone from the panel would like to answer this question, I don't know if Magda, do you want to start with this one?
I can't talk too much about the components. I feel like the vendors would know more. So,
next, but just the general overview. What are Priyats?
So Priyats stands for Pre-Employment Transition Services for students. And this is our way of trying to service as many students in Massachusetts for them to get some transition skills, start thinking about work and learning some job skills, things like that.
So if I can jump in just to add a little bit extra. So Priyats can serve students from 14 to 22, anybody in transition, either in post-secondary learning or in high school. And students don't actually have to be served by Mass Rehab yet. There's 2 different tracks that students can go on. They could be potentially eligible or PE, meaning that they either have a 504 or an IEP and could at any point in time in their life be served by MRC. Then there are the VR students or the vocational rehabilitation students who are already part of MRC and have a MRC counselor. So there's 2 tracks that students can participate in Priyats services. So either already part of MRC or maybe going to one day be a part of MRC. Just wanted to add that.
That's perfect. Thank you so much. Kelly, do you have something to add too?
No, I was just going to say thank you to Kylie. She said it beautifully.
All right, you guys, the next question. So under Priyats services, there's 5 components. And I want to break them down. Can we start with the first component? Will one of you take that first component? And then I'd also like you to discuss what that looks like in how you provide that service so that families can get an idea of what that looks like for their students. Go ahead, Nate. Great.
Yeah, I'll just jump in. I don't know if there's a distinct order in which we will discuss them. So I'm just going to jump into job exploration. There's really, 5 core components that define the Pre-ETS services. And one of them is job exploration. And it's something that we work on a lot with students as they're thinking about their path beyond high school. So that could involve working on doing some interest surveys for students to get a better sense of how their interests align with different career fields. Once they get a sense of what are some different paths they want to explore, we dive in and look at those careers in depth and learn about how they're changing in time based on the labor market, understanding what the work environment is like, getting a better sense of really the nitty-gritty of what's involved in a job. And one way of doing that is getting students to get out and do work site tours. So obviously that's been on hold with the pandemic, but as we exit out of that, we find it's really exciting to get out into a business and actually learn what that work is really about, to hear from employees. We also get students involved in doing informational interviews. So we'll get them to speak with an individual or professional in an area of their interest so they can ask questions and learn directly what that job really entails. Because sometimes you might watch a great fancy video on a career one-stop or virtual job shadow, and it sounds really great, but then, when you speak with someone directly, you get to learn a little bit more about it beyond what we see on the surface. And so we really try and get students exposed to all aspects of a job. And then, one thing that we're going to find as I hand this over is that all these components feed into each other. So job exploration then leads into a work-based experience to really get your hands dirty. There's a lot of overlap with the components. So that's a little bit about job exploration. There's more to it than just that, but it's a sense of learning what's out there and finding how it aligns with your own interests and goals beyond high school and college or whatever post-secondary pursuit you pursue.
That was great. Thank you. Does anyone want to tackle the next component?
I'll jump in with one. So another one of the components is work-based learning. So this is actually one of my favorite because it's more hands-on. So work-based learning, the students actually get to experience real-life work scenarios. That could vary from paid internships, volunteer work, job shadowing. It really all depends on the student. But I do like to push that paid internships are a huge part. That usually motivates the student when money's involved. And we work with the student to find where would best suit them. What are their interests? We don't want to put a student in an internship or volunteer position where they have no interest and don't even want to be there. So yeah, work-based learning is really, as it sounds, getting those employability skills hands-on.
I think the other part of work-based learning that's so important is the discussion of what they learned and what they liked and what they didn't like about the experience to help them make informed choices going forward, which is something, when they're doing things for you at home, you don't necessarily do, but when you have a professional who knows what to ask them, you can draw out so much more information. All right, Kelly, you want to hit the next one?
Sure. Workplace readiness. So workplace readiness is a lot about getting those soft skills. So the behaviors that you need to be in the job. So I go over a lot of customer service, how to treat customers or your coworkers. We do a lot of how to ask for a day off. We also do a webinar on disclosure in the workplace. How do you talk about your disability in the workplace? How do you ask for accommodations that you might need? We do all of that, all the way to resumes, building resumes, kind of touching upon cover letters. I don't spend a lot of time on cover letters, especially at this point. They probably don't need them, but just to prepare them for later on in life, you might need cover letters. References, talking about who do we ask, how do we set that up. Also, how do you find a job? We go over a lot of that. I have a list of websites they can go to, how to utilize their Mass Hire Center, networking, things like that. So that's pretty much what we do in the workplace readiness. And we try to do that right before work-based so they kind of know what to expect.
As an organization that helps after high school individuals with disabilities get jobs, having them come with some of these skills to us after high school is amazing, because I can't tell you how many folks have come to us even after college and they don't have a resume, they don't have a cover letter, they really still don't know what kind of job they want to do or even what work means. And that's a statement all in itself. What does work mean? Because you might want to be a video game designer, but what does that mean? Maybe like they just see themselves playing video games for the rest of their lives, when really there's a lot of math and science and programming and boringness behind the scenes of making video games. So I love that that's happening for young people so that they can discover what work is and what it means before they make decisions about college or taking jobs or, you know, any of those things that are more permanent. Kylie, do you want to take the next one?
Sure. So I'll steal self-advocacy and mentoring. So self-advocacy for us is a little bit of also about Kelly's workplace readiness. So the way we built self-advocacy is learning about your disability. And then if you learn about your disability and you take control over that, you can then advocate for yourself and talk about what accommodations you need, and then talk about, you know, what you might need out of either a support person or a team that you have with you, or even just learning how to be in charge of your own IEP meetings, because that is a great transitional asset for students. You know, they're going to need to talk to their professors and stuff in post-secondary, and the best tool that we can provide them is how to do that in high school. So what we do is we talk about human rights and the importance of human rights, as well as taking some self-assessments about their current skills and how that can translate into potential jobs moving forward. You'll notice there's a theme. It's always job ridden or job leading. We also talk about, you know, dealing with conflict. You know, it's a really fun thing, these components, because as Nate said, they flow so effortlessly between each other, and that you can kind of harken back to a old lesson and be like, yeah, you remember when we learned about this in this program? Well, it also can be an asset to you in this part. So we talk a lot about communication, the best ways to communicate your needs, you know, negotiating who you are, learning the differences between aggressive versus assertive language, and just like knowing who you are and being comfortable with sharing that. So.
Again, I love this as someone who helps adults get jobs, or as someone who has done vocational evaluation and transition assessments for young people who have no idea why they're on an IEP. They're just on one. And that is not being a self-advocate. They need to understand what their disability is to the best of their ability, what their accommodations are to the best of their ability. And they're such a good resource when you involve them in the process, because they can tell you what works and what doesn't. Leslie can talk to that as well. You know, with her kids, they were their best informants at meetings, like this does work, this doesn't, and then they can take that knowledge onto a job. But the earlier you start those skills, the more honed they are as they leave high school. And high school is a really safe place for young people, as everyone knows them there. People know their strengths and their weaknesses, and they don't have to tell anybody that. But when they enter into the adult world, they have to tell everybody. And if we can give them the language and the skills around, you know, self-advocacy and self-determination to the best of their ability, it's a really powerful strength. So does someone want to take the college and post-secondary piece?
I can talk a little bit about that. So for post-secondary right now with the pandemic, it's a little different, but we've been very creative, but it's really about exploring what kids want to do after high school. And a lot of focus in the past has been around like, what college are you going to? But now things have kind of changed, and it's looking at, you know, maybe they're not going to go to college, but maybe they're going to go to a certificate program, or maybe they're just going to go right out into the work world, or maybe they're going to go to a job corps or a specific place that will build skills and be a hairdresser, or a mechanic where you're going to a specific place to do stuff. So it's really exploring what's going to be in their best interest, what their interests are. And we do that by, you know, if they want to go to Job Corps, then maybe taking a tour of Job Corps, or hooking them up with somebody that could talk with them about Job Corps, or college. We've had people give virtual college tours, or come in and talk about what the college experience would be like. We've had guest speakers talking about the difference between high school and college. Like, if you are going to college, what is your role in advocating yourself? Because your parents can't do that anymore. And that's a skill that we also try to point out and really make known before the kids move on. So it's a lot of good experiences, and you can kind of figure out what you might want to do with your future or the next step.
We have a question in the chat about internships. Do we want to answer that or wait till the end?
I think you can go ahead right now, Cal. I think it fits in here.
Okay, perfect. So it was asked, is there an internship limit? There is, because of funding and all of that, whereas the old Priyats model was everyone got an internship. Now it's really for the older kids getting ready for their last year in high school. So whether that's their 18 track or the 22 track. For us personally at Easterseals, we have 10 slots for our Worcester area and 10 slots for our Western Mass area.
I think each provider, if you want to talk about your internship situation right now, that would be really helpful for families and people listening.
This is Casey from Stavros. I'll jump in. So ours is a little bit different with internships. You know, when we first started this program, we did have a designated number of slots, but with COVID, we didn't have internships for a while. So right now it's pretty much open. Anyone who's interested and able to do an internship, we're able to place them. That can change depending on funding. But with us right now, it's whoever is presenting interest and ready to do the paperwork, we're ready to get you going. I think we got 6 students going with internships this week alone.
Nice.
But that's with us at Stavros.
Very similar to NEBA. We right now there is no cap, if you will, on and how many people can attend an internship. You know, if an individual is doing a paid internship, they're going to get paid the rate of $13.50 as everybody else like working in the world. So you were kind of in a good spot, if you will, where like we have the availability to do them, and now it's just where are people's comfortability level and their ability to like go out in the community, or is there a community agency or world ready for them realistically?
Yeah, similarly with viability, we are placing students in internships currently. I know that MRC has had a push to increase internships, which has been excellent. In the old model, you know, as folks were mentioning, it used to be that every student finished up their classroom portion and often would go into an internship. MRC kind of pulled away from that and now is returning back to this internship model, which is great because I think all of us realize that we could teach till we're blue in the face, but it's really getting out and getting your hands dirty that we really see how those skills are applied. And it doesn't always translate from the classroom to the workplace the same way. So those work-based experiences are critical. One thing to note is that there are no one-to-one job coaches that are provided through Priyats in the internship scenario. So students generally need a certain level of ability or independence to operate without that one-on-one support. So we will go in and provide a certain level of job support to get the student on their feet, but the expectation is that they're going to have that independence, which is why we tend to focus on those older students who have already engaged with some soft skill with work readiness training. But if there's a younger student who really seems like they're ready and they've demonstrated work readiness, we will certainly explore that on a case-by-case basis.
We have a couple more questions about internships, so I guess we'll just keep going. Muriel, you had asked what accommodations are available for transition age youth to participate in Priyats. Did Nate answer that question? Was that what you were kind of thinking about job coaching? Well, if just type in the chat if not, but oh, go ahead.
Just more in terms of when they are, I guess, receiving instruction in the classroom, or I don't know, how does that work out in terms of learning the soft skills? Do they have outside, do they have to go to I know right now everything is remote, but if they still were in high school, how would that play out?
I can speak for the way my schools work. Most of my schools have an IA who sit in, or a teacher who sit in on the workshops. So if they need the extra help with that, I also always offer my students, if they need to do a one-on-one to kind of follow up with some of the materials, we do that too. I don't know if another panelist has a different answer for the accommodations.
This is Casey from Stavros. So ours is pretty similar to what Kelly was saying. A lot of times there's a teacher sitting in on the workshop with it being held virtually during the school hours. Some of the schools, the students all have a para with them. Some of the workshops are offered outside of school hours. So in that aspect, it would be either one-on-one or a group setting virtually. In person's a little different. We haven't really been able to do much of that, but depending on the student's need, we figure out what's going to work for them and meet them where they're at. So we could have a situation come up next week that we've never dealt with, and a student needs extra supports, and we figure out how to provide them.
Awesome. We have another question. How many internships can one student participate in? We tend to limit it to one because we have to make sure as many kids as possible have the experience. I don't know if another vendor has another answer for that.
This is Casey. I'll jump in again. Sorry.
No.
So initially, like, comes to mind would be one, but I don't want to say that would be the final answer, because if a student's at an internship and it's not a great experience, or they're not getting enough out of it, I'm open to trying somewhere else, trying again. Maybe it's completely a flop, or they decide halfway through this is not going to work for them, they need something different. Again, it goes back to meeting the student where they're at and finding what's going to work for them. So if that means trying a couple internships, so be it.
Thank you. We have another question about internships. Can you provide examples of internships? Which companies doing what? I can start, and then the other panelists, please jump in. We work with Price Chopper. Depending on the age of the student, they can, if they're 18, they can work in the bakery or stocking. If they're under 18, they have to do front end, which is bagging or carriages. We also work closely with Goodwill, and their tasks usually are pulling materials that have been on the floor for too long. I've also had kids placed at Tower Hill Botanical Garden, and they do a lot of gardening and planting and things like that. Trying to think, I've placed kids all over in random. I try to do it as much as they in a place that they want to be, but those are some of my examples. I don't know if somebody wants to jump in and give other examples.
Yeah, we have a virtual internship right now. We have a student working with the Agawam media. So they're working on graphic design related stuff. It's a student who's studying graphic design in school. We've got some sites at some gardening centers right now. It's coming up in the spring. We're doing nursery work at like a grain and pet food kind of supply place. We have sites currently. In the past, we've placed students in dance studio, in a auto body shop, auto mechanic shop. We try to place students in the area of their interest. That's not always possible. That's usually our first go-to, is if we can find a match. If we can't, then and I can see some companies likely to hire the kids. The intention is not for job placement, it is for job experience. Sometimes companies do hire, but that's the exception more than the rule. And it's not necessarily our goal in Priyats to find placement, but it is to connect to opportunity.
Thank you, Nate. And you answered the next question, which was, the companies likely to hire kids who've done internships with them. What Nate said, it does happen, but it's not the rule. And we also, job placement is not the goal of Priyats. So it's not promised, I guess. That's all we have for questions right now.
All right, so well, let's move on to the next one. So, and I think this is probably woven into your answers, but maybe we can give like just a really good 1-2 punch on the next one with an answer. Why is it important that students access these services? I'm going to call on Kylie. She's been quiet.
I don't like to interrupt. I think it's great for all students to access these services. You know, you're kind of lucky to be able to do it, because like mainstream students don't always have the ability to have somebody come in and be like, hey, let's work on this internship, right? Or let's develop your resume. Or let's just talk about social skills and skills in the workplace, because you can't just text your supervisor with like, yo, bro, I need to take today off because I ain't feeling so good. Like, no, you can't do that. Like, there's a protocol involved. And if you graduate high school and then go into the working world, you know that there's like a hard learning curve, because it's a completely different world than you've already experienced the last, 12 years of your life in school. It's all about you. Right. And in school, we have our teachers who check in on us. We have guidance counselors who check in on us. Our parents sometimes wake us up, make sure we get to school and do our homework. When you become an adult, none of that happens anymore. Or unless you have like really great teams and parents who are like, yo, you got to get up for school. Right. So what it provides our students is the ability to recognize that there are things that they need to do for themselves in order to kind of have a step up when they graduate. We have been always asked all our lives, like, what do you want to do when you grow up, right? And that gets systematically asked through their school life. And what Priyats does is kind of really sits the students down and be like, okay, well, what do you want to do with your life? How do you get there? What are your interests? And maybe if this isn't like a goal that you want to reach now, do you want to go into a trade school potentially and identify, you're really good with working your hands, so this could be an option for you. So realistically, it's just like a really great class to just have somebody sit down in front of you and be like, let me provide these tools to you that you could use in order for your own success after high school.
That was magical.
Well said.
Great.
I don't know if Magda, if you wanted to give an MRC point of view on why individuals should engage with Priyats services that goes beyond that.
So I do think Kylie hit it perfectly, is that Priyats really gets students prepared and thinking about what they want to do. Because they do get that question and from a parent or a grandparent, and they brush it off. And some students don't even want to think about that until they're a senior in high school. So it really pushes them to start thinking about that question of what do you want to do, and learning the skills. So like getting into that internship experience, getting out there, learning new skills, having something to be put on the resume, all those little things just gets them ready to start thinking about what they want to do and getting them to that point. Because some students will come to me and they will say, oh, I might want to work with kids. And it's, how do you know unless you do it? So the internships was the perfect way of getting them in an environment and figuring out if this is something that they want to do. And sometimes they do, and sometimes they figure out, nope, I can't work with other kids. So just, it's such an important service for the students to take advantage of. The workshops, even though they might think it's another like classroom experience and they may not want to go through it, but if they do listen to a little bit of the information that's presented to them, it makes a little bit of a difference, because not only is a teacher or a parent saying some of these things, they're also hearing it from the vendor who might be saying it. And the more you say something, the more it'll stick to a student. So it's really worthwhile for them if they do participate and take advantage.
Yeah, and what's great about it being in a classroom is like the students are also in different points of their lives. So you'll have students who have already had paid employment, but might need a little bit more assistance on like being more comfortable with advocating for themselves, right? So they can speak about experiences they've had, and that's going to relate better to their peers versus a parent being like, well, you got to do this, this, and that, because as I tell my Priyats kids, how often do you actually listen to your parents? Do you hear them or are you listening? And so having that ability for the class to kind of work together, we find it important as adults. So if we can start building that in our high school students, then they're just going to definitely be at a better point when they graduate.
Awesome. I just wanted to share a couple things that are put in the chat that could really be helpful right now. So Melissa, expressed Priyats is free for the schools to help everyone meet the transition planning needs for DESE for students 14 plus as well, so we can help meet needed benchmarks for all different school districts statewide. So that's another important reason that Priyats is important. And then Kevin Kavanaugh said, speaking from experience as a person with a disability, it is important for students to understand they can do this. They can find a job and be independent and have a life outside of their parents or friends. They need to open up their choices. That's the value of Priyats. That's awesome, Kevin. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah, that's great. And I really do agree that every high school student needs these. I think the outcomes for college students in general, with or without a disability, would be better. People would make better choices around degrees. I mean, I have a degree. I don't know why I got my undergraduate degree. It's just the one I picked at the time. You know, my dad kind of had that degree, you know, so if I had these services, I might have chosen a different route and, you know, taken classes that I actually liked instead of accounting. So, you know, thinking about it that way, it is an ideal service for our students with disabilities to help them explore all these, you know, roads and paths that they can take and make informed choices. So let's move on to the next question. What is the school's role in Priyats? I think this is a really confusing piece for families. So if someone can tackle this question, that would be great.
So for us at NEBA, we have a great connection with the schools that we work with. So they might identify students that they think would benefit from the program. And then we have a partnership so that they ask the parents or the students, if they are 18 years of older, if it's okay that they share contact information to us. And then we start calling people or emailing them and asking them if they would like to participate in the program. We have a referral form, and all the schools that we work with have, so they might just even present them that referral form right away. You know, referrals can come from the individual, from the parent. It doesn't have to come through the school. But realistically, the school is going to provide us those 504 documents or those IEP documents that we need for potentially eligible, to make sure that we can kind of submit that information to MRC. Because the goal of that connection is we are working with students, and then we can also say, hey, yeah, you know, MRC is going to be a great asset to you in the future. You know, we've already worked with you. we could potentially work with you in the future, or, you know, here's some supports that we've identified that, like, when you go to MRC, that you can advocate for yourself when you get there. So for us, it's just for us, the school provides us the names and the contact information, and then we pick up from there.
I would add to that. Definitely, the schools are a great conduit for Priyats. They're really we're partners together, right? The schools, they are working on transition skills, and our goal is to really find out where can we fill in the gaps, or how can we supplement what they're already doing. And we know that every school is a little bit different, so we really try and work with each school individually. And you know, we can operate during the school day if that works, but we can also operate outside of the school, after school, on school vacations, over the summer break. So the schools are really partners with us in trying to figure out how to meet those transition needs. But ultimately, we work independent. We are independent. The school is a partner. We work for MRC in a way, right? MRC is our funding source. So they pay the bills. We report out to them. The school is our partner, and we're all in it together to serve students on their transition goals.
Would you guys say that the schools are doing a good job of promoting the services, or is that something that as a vendor you're working on as well? You know, getting the word out to families and making sure the schools understand the services?
It really varies, kind of just saying how every school is a little bit different. Some schools have the resources and they're really able to get that message out. Other schools don't have as much, maybe they don't have the staffing and the resources to make Priyats a priority. So I don't blame those schools that don't promote it. I would say that some schools may have a full-time transition counselor or coordinator on site. That's their role, and they do it really well. Other schools don't have that same ability. So it's a little bit different with every school. Ideally, it's being promoted fully, but that's not the case.
What's your advice for families where the school's not promoting it, where they're in the dark? What would you suggest families do to connect with Priyats if that's the case?
This is Casey. I'll jump in. To reach out to any of us, really to be your own advocate and as a student, or advocate for your child. And, you know, you don't have to have the school involved with Priyats. You can reach out to any of us that's in your area, and, you know, just go about it on your own.
I'll chime in too. So typically, and I say typically because every high school should have an MRC counselor assigned. So if worst case, you reach out to the MRC office of your town, you give them a call, and they'll find out there is a list of every single MRC counselor and which school they cover. And then they can give you that information of the counselor and reach out to that counselor specifically. Could be an easier, but yeah, obviously the vendor, if you know who the vendor is, or the MRC counselor, you can find out who that will be.
I just want to add to that. Yeah, I've had parents reach out to me and I found their vendor for them. So I know all the vendors were very helpful. We try to get you to where you need to be. Melissa nicely posted the MRC website where you can go and read all about Priyats and learn more and figure out who you need to talk to. So thank you so much, Melissa, for sharing that.
I think that this parlays into the next question nicely for what's the MRC's role in Priyats?
You know, MRC has that great opportunity where they are paired with schools. So, you know, the counselors that I work with pretty consistently with, you know, Holyoke and Springfield, they are great kind of bridge makers, right? Where they can go to the schools and be like, hey, you know, we really want your students to be able to participate in these services. Can we set up a meeting and I can invite the vendor with us? And so we can have a group meeting together to discuss, okay, where are your students at? Where would be the most appropriate place for them? You know, some of the greatest things that MRC does is they will meet with like DDS and the school. So we have an open dialogue. And so, you know, the counselors are one of your greatest resources when it comes to what do I do next? Who do I talk to? Because they bridge the gap that we might not be able to bridge ourselves.
Awesome. Thank you. So what is let's go to our last question and then we can open it up for discussion. What is the easiest way or the best way to connect to these services? Kelly, I'm going to tap you. Yes.
I think we kind of just discussed all of it. So your school, reaching out to your school, reaching out to your local MRC office, even just blindly emailing or calling your local vendor, nonprofit, you know, those would be the school would probably be the first step. If you're,
who do you recommend at the school, Cal?
They have different names of roles, but most kids have an special education advocate or caseworker. So that would be a good start, because I know for me, a lot of times that's who I deal with at the school to help arrange the workshops and stuff. So I don't know if somebody has a different answer.
So for us personally, sorry, my dogs are barking over trampoline getting delivered. Of course, that's happened now. Is just to reach out to us too. And we can connect with whoever, but you know, sending us an email or just calling and saying that you're interested in services. And then that's kind of the most fast tracked, but in the school, talking to your guidance counselor, your adjustment counselor, your special education coordinator, calling MRC. Really, there's so many ways. But I think for us, the quickest is just reach out to us.
Discuss it in the IEP meeting also maybe, and that maybe can connect you quickly as well.
Absolutely. It was suggested that education team lead, so that's a good one. Team chair is sometimes they're called. We have another question from Donna. Does the MRC Priyats information list what vendor works with what school district? Yes, they do. There is a list. I don't know if MRC can answer that. Is it on the Priyats website? Does it give, yeah, okay. So go to the Priyats website through MRC and you will find who your vendor is.
Right, because schools aren't assigned to vendors by district. So you'll see that there's a lot of overlap in areas, and it's just the school is assigned to a vendor versus like the whole district is assigned to a vendor.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
Great. All right, we're going to move on over here. Questions. So we can put these in the chat and go over them. Or is there anything else in the chat, Zach or Kelly, that are questions we could cover right now that we didn't get to?
We have covered all of them. The last thing that was said, that they're not sure if Priyats vendor information is on the website, but the local office phone number is, and you can find out that way. So if you call your local MRC office, they should be able to guide you to what vendor you should talk to.
Melissa or Magda, there's what used to be known as the Green Book, right? That's on the website. That is a pretty good indicator of high school connection and counselor also, and that's pretty up to date.
We have a question from Shayla Martinez. Hi, Shayla, how are you? My school is an out-of-district school. Students are from different areas from the Western Mass, so will they be assigned different vendors? Your school is assigned one vendor, so all those students, so that's been a big question, Shayla, is if the kid is out of district, do they go to their home school vendor or the school that they go to's vendor? The answer is whichever they want. Most of the students, it seems, goes to whatever their school's vendor is. I hope, did that answer your question?
Yeah, like, and also, so like it does 100% depend on that student. So like, yeah. I've interacted with in a school out in Marlboro, who student is in Ware. So we serve the Palmer area, which is the closest vendor area, I guess, to that student. So the school has identified that they want that student to be able to do a lot of their internships or community community access things close to their home versus being all the way out in Marlboro. So it 100% depends on you and kind of where your needs are, because what's fun about Priyats and what we do is it's all student centered. So what the students' needs are, we're going to work our butts off to meet those.
Thank you. And we had another question in the chat. Would the vendor explore with the student if college is a viable option? Absolutely. So as you heard Nate talk about in another vendor, I think they will do college tours. Right now they've been virtual. They will talk to the student about financial aid, how you go about that, but that is all in the post-secondary component. But yes, college can be explored if that's an option. Also, someone shared the link for the school coverage report. So that's awesome. So anybody who needs to look at that, it's right there for you. Thank you so much, Anne.
I also wanted to suggest that people could also contact the Federation for Children with Special Needs. You know, we have transition projects and support families as they help their students navigate, you know, work experiences and options. So we can connect you to the correct vendor or provide additional information around Priyats. So think of us as a resource also. You know, it's all about making all of these connections. And I just wanted to, you know, we're coming towards the end here. I just wanted to make sure that I thank the panel here today. I've learned a lot about Priyats, and I think the families and professionals who attended today have learned a lot, not only about the program, but your passion for the program. It really shows through of how you really want to help students gain the skills that they need to be successful in, you know, their vision and what they want to do in the world. And it all starts with opportunity, and that's what you're providing. You're giving them the skills to get out into the world, to test their ideas and to, you know, try different things. And that's really that's what transition's all about. So thank you today for attending, sharing your information. And I believe, Nancy, there's a slide with contact information.
There is at the end here. I wanted to give everybody a quick opportunity if you have any upcoming events that individuals should know about, families should know about, events or any information about things coming up.
I'll just say we are returning to in-person activities, which is exciting. We're doing a river cleanup on the Westfield River, April 24th. So I don't know if we've got people represented from all regions, so it doesn't really make sense to promote my own personal events, but I just want to say that we are, I think, as vendors wide, hoping to get students back in person. And so if you have a school that's served by Viability, we'd love to talk more about what that looks like. And we're really excited to start working with the students in person, just as those students are excited to get off the Zoom as we are. So.
Yes. And then my next slide is contact information under Mass Rehab. This is the link to the Priyats portion of their website, which is very informative. You do have to scroll down and there's links with PDFs of information that you will find extremely important. You can find your school, your rehab counselor, the vendors associated with your school there. It's really helpful. You can print it out. You know, it's something that's kept up to date and you can reach out from there. Here are the email links to the individual panelists who I cannot thank you guys enough. I think this was so beneficial for families and professionals working with students. If there's anything anyone would like to add, go ahead now, say your piece.
I just want to thank everyone too. This was awesome. I think it really showed Priyats. Thank you so much, everyone who contributed.
And I think everyone should feel free to reach out to them because they suggested that they're, you know, willing to answer your questions and to provide more information. So thank you very much for attending today. We did it within an hour. Lunch and learn, and we'll be probably doing more because I think there's a great interest in the information around work and work readiness. So thank you everyone for attending and have a great Monday. Tuesday.
Where can everyone watch this if it's recorded? Where are we going to keep this?
I hope that we'll have it on the Federation's YouTube channel, and we'll let the people know that attended today where it will rest. So we'll make that happen.
Thank you.
There's
so
a question
much,
that's the